Grumpy, and today we have a special episode. Don't worry, I'm not cooking today, so y'all ain't gotta see my face. For the first time, we're gonna have the person behind the camera, in front of the camera, teaching y'all how to do D-girts today, cause y'all know I can't do the girts to save my life. So I had to hire out the big guns. So today, y'all get the big guns. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Miss Grumpy, and I'm teaching you how to make apple pie bites. Let's get to it. Okay, so for the ingredients we will be using today for the apple pie bites: sugar, brown sugar, lemon juice, vanilla extract, and nutmeg, cinnamon, and a little splurge. And my favorite and the main course of the dessert, apples. And let's get to cutting this and peeling this. Now, for this dessert, you can use a variety of apples. You can use Jazz, Granny Smith, or Gala. It all depends on what you want to do. You can use red apples if you want. I like to use Granny Smith's, Jazz, and Gala because they have a little bit of tartness to it. So when you bake it, it brings a little bit more sweetness when it melds in with the spices. So on to the next step. You want to make sure you peel it. I say, hey, potato. Well, you peel a potato, you can peel an apple. Same way with the peeler. It's a little time consuming, but you'll get through it. Now let's dice into it. All right. So when you're cutting the apples, you want to make sure we take the core out. See where the stem is, see what the bottom is. We do not want that in our apple pie bites. No seeds, remember. Okay, so first you want to do, we're going to cut off the bottom. Make sure it's a nice flat surface. Then you want to cut around the stem. So I like to go long ways. I like to make a box. Okay? Then I like to rotate it and cut off the sides. This is where you get the core out of the way and you just get the good stuff to the side. Okay? See? You have decored an apple. Easy peasy, and you don't have to buy a fancy mechanism. Now, on to the nice part. We're gonna dice the sides. So what I like to do, I like to cut longwise, and I like to hold the slice together because sometimes with apples, it likes to stick onto the blade. So cut it longwise, and sometimes it may slide out, but you just pop it right there along next to the other ones. And then we're gonna cut, and slide out. You wanna make sure you have them cube. Okay, try to make it even as possible. If you have a little bit of big chunks, just cut them down. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want your chunky bite, that's up to you too. You want to scoop up, put it into a bowl. It could be, I prefer a big Tupperware bowl, or if you have any type of big bowl, you want to make sure you put it in a bowl, not a plate. I don't know what you have, but use a bowl. So on to the next is this. All right, on to the spices, which is very important. Okay, so in this jar, I've put 1/4 of a cup of white sugar and 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar. I put 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and I put 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, all in this cup. I like to separate them. That way I can give it a good little mix. And sometimes with the brown sugar, it clumps up. So just to shake it out. And sometimes you want to just put your fingers in there, pat out the little clumps, because sometimes with brown sugar, it can be very sticky, so that it sticks to itself. So you don't want clumps when you want to add it to the apples in the next step. All right, so once you have that, you want to make sure you're sprinkling in the spices. I wanted to give you that dramatic pause. And you want to toss it. just to fluff it around, and again, breaking up the clumps if there's still some in there. You know, just shaking it down onto your diced product of apples. Okay, on the next step, what I like to do, some people like to just put that seasoning on it. I like to add a little lemon juice, because the lemon juice is going to draw out that flavor of the apple, but it's also going to make the seasoning or the spices soak into the apple, give it that nice tart, sweet taste that we all love when it comes to apple. I put 2 tablespoons in there, and then I mix it together. Alright, so after you're gonna shook and shake all your spices into your diced apples, make sure you give it a good stir with a nice well-sized scoop. Because sometimes when you shake, all that product gets to the bottom and it clumps up. So you want to make sure you clear the crevices of the bowl. You see how wet and moist the apple is? And how the seasoning spices are mixed in perfectly. Kind of looks like potatoes, but it's not. It's apple. So what we don't want to forget are vanilla extract. Now I like to put 1 tablespoon in there. Don't want to overpower it. Now you don't want to overpower it with the vanilla extract, because we don't want it to be runny, because we're going to apply it to our dough. Now, this is rolled dough, pre-made. You can make your own. You can. But I'm crafty, and I like Pillsbury, because they got great dough. Now what you want to do, you want to make sure you unroll it. Be careful when you're unrolling it, because sometimes it will crack on you. Well, not crack, but it's easily to rip is the correct word. So you want to roll it out. Okay? Want to make sure it is flat, just like that. Then you want to grab flour. Just take a 3-finger pinch, throw it on top. Then we're gonna take our roll, and I like to add a little extra flour to my roll, because I do not want my dough to stick. So I'm just gonna roll it out, dust my spots, because I don't want big clumps in there. I want to dust my spots as I roll. Dust, roll, dust, roll. Okay, and you also want to flip it over to the other side. Okay, we don't want to ignore it, you know. We don't want it sticking to our table or our cutting board, you know. And we just do a 3-finger pinch. Our handy dandy jar again. It's not only good for, you know, my spices, but it's also good for making perfect circles. So what you want to do, you want to get a jar or a cup that's at least 3 inches in diameter. Okay, and we're gonna put it right here on the dough. We're gonna give it a little push, give it a little turn, give it a little push, give it a little turn, and then voila, I come out with a perfect circle. So you want to continue to do that, and if it gets stuck, just pop a finger in there, because you know it's all about the suction. So you want to break that by just popping the finger in there. Sometimes you might not even have to. It just stays there in a perfect circle. Alright, so we got our circles done. So what you want to do, I like to get a tablespoon. I like to get about like 3 chunks of the filling Sometimes depending on how finely you chop them, you could do a 4. Now what I like to do, I like to fold in the sides, and I like to fold in the corners, and you just keep folding in the corners as you go. Now the thing about dough, it can stretch. So don't be afraid to pull at it just gently to close up the bite. Okay? I like to put it in my palm, you know, just to shape it a little bit. Make sure you pinch off the top, you know, pinch it together so it can seal. Alright, so when you're done rolling your bites, I just want to let you know, you can always add scraps from your leftover dough to fill in the little holes, because again, they're diced pieces, so sometimes they poke out, so you don't be afraid to use the scraps to fill in the holes in your dough. Now when you're done rolling up your bites, you want to put them in the fridge, say about 10 or 15 minutes, just to get the dough back to being a little bit tough around the pieces, because you don't want to be too mushy and then it falls apart. So now I'm going to add a bit of a buttermilk concoction, just so it can brown on the top as they're baking. Usually you want to apply this with like a brush, but I don't have a brush at the moment, so just a little bit of drizzle from a spoon will go a long way. And then we're gonna pop into the oven, and make sure you have your oven at 425. We're gonna pop it in there for about 20-25 minutes. Always keep an eye on your baked goods, you know, make sure they're browning right and not blackening. Keep that tip. Okay, so we'll see you soon. Alright, so our bites are out the oven. So I recommend that if you do the wash with the butter and milk, add a little egg in there. That way it can brown a little bit and actually make it a little flaky on the dough. So now that we have the bites, I'm going to plate them. I like to put 4 in here if you want, or how many ever you want to. And I like to add me a little butter pecan ice cream to put on top. And there you go. Apple pie bites with a little bit of ice cream on the side. I'm Mrs. Grumpy, and thank you for watching Grumpy's Outlaw Kitchen. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.